Welcome to the very first episode of Builders Discount Center's Build Tough Banter, where we bring you helpful tips and tricks by the truckload. Consider them a little something extra for your toolbox. During our first episode, we like to introduce ourselves. I'm Lexi.
And I'm Danny. And we're both part of the Builders Discount Center family. In fact, we've been part of BDC our entire lives. Now, we're starting the official Builders Discount Center podcast. Welcome. Growing up, it was never you have to work for Builders Discount Center or you must work for Builders Discount Center. But in the back of my mind, I always knew that I wanted to be a part of it. It was my summer job every year in high school. When I was 15, got my permit. I got to drive, our founder, our grandpa, who we call Papa. I got to drive him around to all the stores. That was a life lesson and one that I cherish. But working through high school, I always had an idea I wanted to do it. Went to college, studied business management with the idea of doing Builders Discount Center one day. Again, there was no pressure to have to jump into it, but the day I graduated was on a Saturday, and that following Monday, I started as a manager trainee at our New Bern location.
Yep. And speaking of Papa, tell that story about, you driving him as a kid. It's one of my favorites.
So anyone who knew our Papa and most that started with Builders Discount Center still tell the stories of him. He liked to be early everywhere he went. So as a 15-year-old staying up late on the summer nights, I would sleep in my work clothes. And he'd tell me he was going to be at our house at 5 a.m. while he was in the driveway at 4:30 laying on the horn. And that's what would wake me up. So I'd just have to put my shoes on, brush my teeth, and I'd run out the door. Once we would get started, we would be at the breakfast diner 20 minutes before they opened. He'd have to tell everybody there who I was and what I had going on. And then we would also make it to the BDC location a good 45 minutes before they opened. So he liked to be early. He liked to be, on time to him was early, but it was a good experience. We'd get to the store and I'd get to walk, the warehouse with him and the store manager, and I wasn't really involved, but I was listening,
That's
and
right.
that felt good and helped me kind of grow into who I think that I am today with Builders Discount Center.
Right. Couldn't said it any better. Especially the point that you said that you never felt forced into BDC. I feel like that was one thing that Mom always did a great job about, was just making it be where, never felt like we had to do it. But I think growing up around BDC and us having that appreciation and seeing, how it's grown and how much passion was put into it, like that was what, at the end of the day, I never thought I wanted to do BDC, but I didn't know at what point of life. And then got out of college, did my first job that wasn't BDC, and then came to BDC not even a year after, because it was something that, watching you, go into that as well, and always looking up to you as a person, just wanted to be a part of it, and definitely a good decision I made, and I'm happy to be able to continue to work for the family business.
When you love what you do, is it really a job?
Exactly.
I do remember when with Papa, he'd always be like, working for BDC wouldn't be so bad, would it? So that was probably the most pressure I ever had, was how he'd phrase that question about 5 times a day. It wouldn't be so bad if you worked for BDC one day. So, but besides that, there wasn't the pressure. But when it does when you take a lot of pride in it, knowing all the blood, sweat, and tears that, our parents and uncles and aunts and put into it. And obviously, Papa being the entrepreneur that he was, he was in the logging business, cement business, developing business, but, it really, his vision for who BDC was, and it still is, when we opened, and the business model he created, and then, the second generation, our uncles and aunts and, Mom, really sticking to that business model. We've never strayed, but so far left or so far right on things, and we've stuck right to it, and it makes it a lot to be proud of.
Yeah. What would you say are the biggest values that he instilled in everyone and, brought BDC on these core values. Let's talk about those values and how they're still strong today.
I think the best part of Builders Discount Center is we always want to do things the right way. We want to do the right thing by our vendors. We want to do the right thing by our customers, and we want to do the right thing by our employees. And, we've always said, we don't want to make a lot of money off a few people. We want to make a little bit off a lot of people. And I think a lot of our customers see us as being an extremely fair and good to do business with building supply. I've always said that we might not have the smartest people, running our company from us to our management, but we have the best people.
Right.
We have high character, high integrity people running our company. And I think that is a flow down effect from him. He wasn't going to cut any corners. He didn't want anything that wasn't given to him. He wanted to earn every bit of it. And because of that, I think we still hold that to this day.
Yep. And we use the term a lot, the BDC family. And I feel like that's so true, especially when you look from top to bottom, how we care about our people, but then all of our teams are close. But then you also have, managers and employees that have been there for 20 to 30 years. And I think that just speaks volume of all those core values, because nobody wants to be at a place that they don't enjoy or feel valued or loved. And having those employees there for that long, it's a true testament of, who we are and the values that we instill.
Yeah, we've been doing employee evaluations the last couple of weeks, leading up to today.
Yeah.
And, you get to have those long talks with each employee. And some guys have just started with us for, the last couple months, but then you do run into the ones. We have a guy in Williamson that's been with us since the day we opened in 2003. We have a handful of employees that's been with us for over 30 of our 37 years. Another group has been with us more than 20. And it's awesome to see the transition. And, when you ask them, are they happy? They don't want, they tell you they don't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I think that we could always want to do better by our employees, and we're always striving to do better. But I do believe they feel that there's a genuine care to make sure that they're taken care of, and they're with a company that's doing things the right way, and that we're all in it together.
Yeah.
To me, the beauty of BDC is our management down to the guy who just started. They all work elbow to elbow. There's no managing from an ivory tower, as John would like to say. Our management gets right into it, and throughout the day is doing all the same duties that we asked, anybody else. And because of that, it's a pretty cohesive unit.
Exactly. No one's sitting behind the scenes just in the office chair.
Yeah, there's no report, just somebody reading reports all day. It's answering the phone, loading customers. And because of that, I think that everyone has the respect that has with each other, no matter the position.
Right. And then, with us being open for 37 years, that's right on par with since you at 87.
My birthday, yeah.
So was the first store, was it open before you were born, or was it?
Yeah, about 2 weeks before I was born. So it's easy to keep up with. Mom always jokes about being able to keep up with how long Builders Discount Center's been around, because I was born a couple weeks later. So that's another part that kind of ties me into it.
Yeah.
But it's also aging me a little bit now. Mm-hmm. It was a lot easier when it was the 20th anniversary. Now that we're coming up on 7 years in the next couple weeks. So I feel a little tied in. My role when I transitioned from a store manager, I did the manager trainee to a store manager in Burlington, to a store manager in Rocky Mountain. When I transitioned into the role I'm in now, it was a lot of needs combined into one role. And it became even bigger than that. And I was very fortunate that you finally wanted to come on board, and you took a lot of what Donna, who's our mom, her advertising side, as she was stepping back a little bit, you not only took over some of that role, but then took over a lot of what I was not doing a good job of,
Right.
from a social media perspective and several things. But I think if we're going to talk about you coming on and working with Builders Discount, we have to talk about our probably first evening as a brother sister co-worker
Yeah.
relationship. Do you remember that night?
Oh, absolutely. The good thing is it was first and last fight. We haven't really had any issues since that, so it was good to get it out early. But some we were discussing, trying to make a decision about something, and
No. I understood what I was saying. I then looked at the rest of the family, said, "Are you understanding my point?" And you weren't getting it. And all I heard you say as you went up the stairs was a F off, Daddy. And from that point on, I think it created. We had the great relationship, but from a working relationship, it let us know exactly where we stand. If F off needs to be said, then it can be said.
Yeah.
But knowing that we do agree on so many things and value each other's opinion, obviously helps a brother sister co-worker situation.
We're both pretty strong-minded, so we're not scared to say how we truly feel about anything, or if we feel like something is the right decision, we'll both kind of stand for that decision versus just giving into what the other person is, which a lot of times that is the case because we both agree on the same thing. But I think it definitely set the tone for our whole work relationship.
Yeah, if you could have seen the faces of everybody in the room as you went up the stairs,
terrified,
yelling at me, I was like, "Yeah, this is gonna be a great first day, great first day." But
we've come a long ways.
And a long ways to go, and it probably won't be the last time. But for the most part, we if you always want what's best for BDC, and that's how we really run and ask our management to run our stores, is as long as you make the decision at the time for what's best for BDC and you can see that, then you don't really make a wrong decision.
Right.
And we get into that sometimes in different of opinions, but that day was you kind of drew a line there that I knew when I crossed it what to expect. Yeah. Not that I won't cross it again,
right?
But I know what I'm getting in return. Yeah, with you coming on board, it has opened our eyes, and not as necessarily opening our eyes, but giving us a fresh viewpoint that we might not have had from a marketing standpoint, definitely from a social media standpoint, that I think that's been important. But Glenn, our president, our uncle, he's smart enough to realize when things need to shift from a who our new target base is and where things are going, and everybody's like, how do you work in a family business? That must be difficult. But I'm not saying there probably weren't some struggles back when they got started.
Right.
And I'm sure there was, and it's things that we were shielded from or didn't see back as kids. But I think at the level we're at now, and as we are all involved with Builders Discount Center and we see what our papa and family has created and that we've been able to step into, that we'd all be idiots to do anything to not get along and keep that train moving.
Right.
But I believe being able to keep who we are here on one side of it, and then the new age advertising, new age marketing, new products, new way about doing different things for in-store and for employees, different things we've never done with customers.
Right.
Being able to allow us to express our viewpoints and them matter, I think it's been important in the shift for allowing our third generation to come on board.
Right, and everyone knows their role and the value that they bring, and I think it's all working together so well. Like you said, Glenn, he knows what it takes, and so for us to continue to have success, but then he's open to those new ideas and the things that we have to do where no business can stay the exact same and have as it did 37 years ago, but just being able to keep those core things that have been working for us, but then also all the new marketing and social media and, bringing in new products, different ones that, back 10, 15 years ago, we might not have would have brought in, having those brought in and really trying to gain new customers on top of, keeping consistent with the ones that have been with us for years is a big part of, us continuing to grow.
Yeah. When our friends probably had the opportunity to grow up close to their cousins and they went over and played every weekend. With us, it wasn't that way. It was one family moved to Rocky Mount to start Rocky Mount. The other family had to move to Burlington to start Burlington. So for us, seeing our cousins was somewhat of a summer trip, and then the main holidays, because builders, opening the stores,
Yep.
Split us up. But it is been cool seeing our third generation come back together, with Trey working, and he started as a trainee, assistant manager, store manager, and now he's in a corporate position,
Yep.
Here in Rocky Mount, and getting to work. And there's still some more third generation behind us,
Right.
that's a little bit younger that will be coming along and get there.
If they choose to.
Yeah, no pressure, I'm sure. But they'll get their crack at it and have to work their way up. And but all the new vision, and when it's coming from a place of, I don't think there's any selfishness that comes along with any of us. And that's probably the beauty of family business.
Mm-hmm.
It is what's best for the Builders Discount Center. And when you're doing that, it gets back to that same question I just said, and any suggestions we make, if we think it's what's best, they're listened to, and some of them are shut down. But for the most part, we get the opportunity to make our mark. So that's been a fun, for me, I'm going on 13 years now. 13 years of Builders Discount, and you're only year 3.
Yeah, April will be year 4.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Check the math on that, but it's been a good ride.
With BDC, we started, that's all we knew as a kid, but now you with Tripp and Liam, they're also, they come meet you in Wendell store, which is the closest sometimes, and they'll ride the forklifts, have fun, but that's all they know. But tell the story about the other morning when you were getting Liam ready for school, and you asked about the favorite color.
Yeah, so my youngest, he's not really a morning person, so I was just trying to get him in a better mood as we were getting him dressed for school, and I just asked him what his favorite color was, expecting it to be Carolina blue. We are big Tar Heel fans in my household. So, and he said red. So I immediately was thinking he was trying to take an NC State dig at me. And I said, red, why is it red? And he goes, it's red for BDC. And as a 3-year-old, to recognize the value of how much, we love BDC. It's the name of boats. It's every sweatshirt I wear outside of work. It's my hats. But it's already carrying down. And again, they won't have any pressure either to join BDC, but they'll be introduced to it sooner than later.
That's right.
When my oldest Tripp, he's 5. When he turns about 8, I'll be able to let him loose in a warehouse sweeping floors and really, really get a good understanding of all those toys he has, what it takes to pay for them.
Yeah, they don't just show up.
No. The Santa Claus doesn't come year round.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for him to get old enough to experience that. I just remember being a 7-year-old, and back then it was probably breaking OSHA violation, but sitting on the forklift beside my dad or beside Billy Jones, who at the time was just out of high school, and he's one of our employees, that's been with us for over 30 years. And I just ride on the forklift with them all day as a toddler almost. So I am looking forward to doing that and having those experiences with my kids.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite things as a kid. Would go to the Goldsboro store and drive the sweeper around and sweep the floors. Like, that was my favorite thing. I thought I was so cool, but I was, still cleaning the warehouse. But I was just like, because it was something that you could drive. I thought I was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah,
But
you didn't know that you were doing a good service to
yeah,
the store. You thought you were just
exactly,
riding
yeah.
around. They were getting some work out of you,
For sure.
probably unpaid work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the day I can work with them or take them with me to stores and introduce them to how. I think that's where a lot of the customer interaction and being real comfortable, not so comfortable talking on a podcast, I'll be honest, but talking face-to-face with customers came from was being introduced to that at an early age and listening to the banter go back and forth between, whoever I was with at Builders Discount Center, whether it be an employee, my dad, different personnel, but hearing that back and forth, I think prepared me to be able to handle that well as I grew up.
That's for sure. Because our customer base, we see, all different kinds of people from different, walks of life. And I think that's one of the coolest things because we're just constantly surrounded by so many great people, but their stories are all so different. And that feeds into, being able to that face-to-face interactions. Every interaction is so different when you're working at the sales counter. It's pretty cool. Not a lot of people get that opportunity. And if you're in a sales role, you're kind of dealing with the same people all the time. But at BDC, working behind that counter, you hear a lot of good stories.
Yeah, working in retail is not always, it's not always just rainbows and butterflies, I guess.
Yeah.
But with our customers, I feel like, we've heard the term, shot around at the stores, salt of the earth. They're just good people. And it's probably where I learned at the earliest age, you never judge a book by its cover. You have somebody walk in and it looks like that, you wouldn't think that they're coming in to buy much at all or be able to afford much at all. As a 14-year-old, and next thing you know, he's pulling out every single pocket of his overalls, a lot of cash and buying a big project. And but you also, what I really do value with who we deal with at Builders Discount from a customer standpoint is you have some customers who have spent 6 months saving for their 7 or 8 windows that's going to cost them $1,000, and you got some customers that are buying, $20,000 garages, but we never prioritize one over the other. Our company, was made on the backs of prioritizing that first-time customer, that homeowner, the one who's saving up. So it is something that we always preach to our guys and to really treat everyone the exact same as they come in. And there may be difference in sales numbers, but there's no difference in the importance to us on the customer who's buying 2-3 windows at a time than the person who's buying a big, $30,000 poster.
Right. What's your favorite? You have a favorite customer story from when you were working in one of your sales, like behind actually in a store role?
Probably. Well, there's been a couple instances. One thing I still tell to this day to our guys is probably the worst. At what the worst customer interactions I had from getting a cussing from a customer has been the only customers that have ever brought me a gift card ever. It might have been a week later, it might have been 3 weeks later, but it's happened 3 times. And being able to and I tell that story because, you never know what someone's going through. You never know the day they've had, the news they've heard, whether it be personal or with their business. And
Right.
Sometimes you're on the bad end of that. But if you handle it the right way, you'll keep that customer. And I had a customer in Burlington that he laid into me, and it was in the middle of a lot of other customers, and right out in the front parking lot, and I took it and
Swallowed it.
and swallowed it and walked back in and continued my day. And about 2 weeks later, he brought me a gift card to a nice restaurant and apologized and told me he had some other things going on, and he took it out on me, but it's part of it. But from positive stories, you always you see the homeowners, do-it-yourselfers, this is their first house, and they're coming in and they're fixing up, it's together. It's, it's a new couple might have a little baby on their hip, and you can just tell how happy they are to be in a house, and what it may have took for them to get to that point, and they're saving every penny they can save, which is why they're at Builder's Discount, and we help them through the process, and you get done with it, and then you get them coming back the following few months for another project, and they're showing you pictures, of it. And there's a whole lot of that goes around, but there's just good relationships that you can build and create, and the type of customers we have and the people that shop with us, I think everyone at every one of our locations has that.
Yeah. And I see, one of my favorite things like from customers is the ones that have been there shopping with us since the beginning. There's so many that they've, new Papa will tell a story about, interactions with him, or just how the old management was that are now, if Billy was at a store, then him to today and his role as going store to store, but just they've seen, him go from being that 15-year-old to now into this role that he's in, and they've watched him evolve, and just so many of our management. I think it's pretty cool. But hearing the stories about Papa are pretty awesome, or even, in Wendell, hearing a lot of stories about, your dad and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's just like pretty special that, that goes into the familyness and the hometown feel of Builder's Discount, is being able to have those interactions with people that have, known our story for some as long as we have.
Oh yeah, when you get the customer who, I've been shopping here longer than you've been here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was here when I was 8, so you might not have, but for the most part, we've been in these communities, and we're in small communities on purpose, and we want to serve the communities, and we want to give an option besides a big box store.
Yep.
And we want to try and service them, but we also get involved in the schools. And when we've done that year over year, you have the customer, a lot of our customers work with us as high school jobs, and now they come back and shop and want to tell those stories. So it is interesting how it changes, and it does make me feel old at times, thinking that, I started back in, 2009, and here we are. But it's been, like I said earlier, it's been a wild ride. To somewhat wrap this up, as you would want us to do now, I don't quite know how I feel about being a podcaster, but I have enjoyed, going down memory lane a little bit, and BDC is probably my greatest, passion. I love my family, love my kids, but, BDC is special in a lot of ways to me. So it's been fun to talk about. And
that's right.
And I've enjoyed our little first episode together.
That's right. Got us out of the office for a little bit.
Yeah.
But we appreciate everyone for listening, and hope you enjoyed the first episode. We'll be back again, I think, but to be determined, but we had a good time.
Alrighty, well, until next time, remember, don't just build
tough.